Hello everyone, welcome to the GitHub Copilot Concepts and Integration. I'm here Abdul Rasheed Feroz, and I will be here speaking about the GitHub Copilot, the AI programmer companion for you to make sense about the basics with the concepts and the integrations that we have. Let's get started here on exploring about what a GitHub Copilot is or what a Copilot is, right? And how it helps us and what's the scratch on which the Copilot was found. And we will also get to know on how to set up, configure, and troubleshoot the GitHub Copilot, followed by that a quick tool on which we can make sense about how the GitHub Copilot can be used over the Visual Studio Code. The GitHub Copilot uses the OpenAI Codex to suggest the code and the entire functions in real time right from your editor. It can be your Visual Studio, or it can be your Visual Studio Code, or any other tools that you speak about, any other SDKs that you can think about. Let's go ahead. We will make sense about understanding how the GitHub Copilot can help you to code by offering autocomplete style suggestions. And we will also make sense on enabling GitHub Copilot for business, for your business enterprise. And we will also learn on how to configure the GitHub Copilot. Finally, about developing an application, or let's try working out with the Visual Studio Code to make sense about the GitHub Copilot. Let's get started here with the OpenAI Codex. The Codex models are said to be the descendants of the base GPT-3 models and are said to be trained on billions of lines of source code in public GitHub repositories. This can produce the working code from the natural language that you type. Say, for example, you can just go ahead, you could say that I need to get a program which can work for a facial recognition. This means that you can issue commands in English with any piece of software with an API, and the Codex models are said to be the most capable one, which can work with Python, and it's proficient in over a dozen of languages, including JavaScript, Go, Ruby, and SQL as well. It's just same like what we have in GPT-3. You can tailor the codex to a variety of tasks, including the code generation task over here. The GitHub Copilot helps you with writing the code with a less, writing the code faster with a less work to get involved. GitHub launched the GitHub Copilot, which is said to be an AI programmer that helps the users to write the code faster with a less work. GitHub draws context from the comments and the code, and it suggests the individual lines and the whole functions instantly here. GitHub Copilot is powered by the Codex models running on Azure OpenAI service, and it has like hundreds of thousands of developers who are using the Copilot today. It's making programmers more effective and widening the context of who can be a programmer here. Here is all about how the GitHub Copilot works for you. Let's make sense on how the service works. The GitHub Copilot service talks to your Visual Studio Code editor in this scenario, and the editor sends the context from your current file to the Codex model that's running on the Azure OpenAI service, which responds with a text that is likely to follow the content. This is then displayed as suggestions to the editor, and the users can accept or tweak these suggestions then. These suggestions are remarkably accurate and they are getting smarter at all the time. Let's look at some more examples of how Microsoft is using Azure OpenAI to innovate on behalf of our customers. We will try going up, making sense about the powerful AI models that are said to be there. We will also speak about the security and the vulnerability that gets involved. GitHub Copilot is the world's first at-scale AI programmer tool. It's an AI developer tool that can help in writing the code faster. and it draws the context from the comments and the code to suggest the individual lines and even the whole functions in an instant way. We have a research which has found GitHub Copilot that helps in developers' code to be faster, focus on solving the business problems, and stay in the flow that's longer and you feel more, like fulfilled with the work. So this is said to be powered by OpenAI Codex again, and the GitHub Copilot's generative pre-trained language model is created by OpenAI. You can find the extension that's said to be available for Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code, or you can go with SDKs like NeoVim and the JetBrains Shoot of the integrated development environments. Here is said to be the GitHub Copilot for Business. GitHub Copilot is available through GitHub personal accounts with, GitHub Copilot for individuals, or you can try with the organizations or enterprise accounts with GitHub Copilot for business. With GitHub Copilot for business, you can manage access to the GitHub Copilot for the organizations within your enterprise. Once you grant an access to the GitHub Copilot, that organization's administrator can grant the access to the individuals and to the teams. With GitHub Copilot for Business, the GitHub Copilot is open to every developer, team, organization, and even the enterprise. It's focused on making organizations more productive, secure, and fulfilled, where the GitHub Copilot for Business allows the developers to code faster and it allows them to focus on more satisfying work as well. You can find all these features, which you can expect from the Copilot for Business. You have like a more powerful AI model. So, new modeling algorithms can improve the quality of the code suggestions here. We do have the AI-based security vulnerability filtering. GitHub Copilot can automatically block the common insecure code suggestions by targeting the issues such as hard-coded credentials, SQL injections, and the path injections too. We then have the VPN proxy setup. That's like one another benefit. GitHub Copilot works with VPNs, including with self-signed certificates, so the developers can use it in any working environment. We do have the simple sign up, so any company can quickly purchase the Copilot for business licenses over the online, and easily it can assign the seats even if they don't use the GitHub platform for their source code. The next comes the key concepts over here. So the key concepts is like, we have the AI powered concepts. GitHub Copilot is an AI driven coding assistant that's developed by GitHub, okay, joining hands with OpenAI. So this leverages the advanced machine learning and NLP, that's your natural language processing techniques, to provide intelligent code suggestions in the assistants. It also supports with real-time code suggestions. So the Copilot offers real-time code suggestions as you write code in your integrated development environment. These suggestions include auto completions, code snippets, and entire, functions of the classes that it can work around. We then have the context awareness. So one of the Copilot's standout feature is said to be its ability to understand and adapt to the context of your code. It takes into account the programming language, variable names, data structures, and comments to provide relevant and context-aware suggestions. The next comes the code generation. The code generation in GitHub Copilot refers to the tool's ability to automatically generate the code snippet, functions, and even the entire classes or files based on the context and your coding needs there. It uses machine learning models, including natural language processing and code analysis, to understand your code and provide the suggestions for completing it. These suggestions can range from simple variable names to a complex code blocks that could be there. We then come up with, the benefit that's said to be the version control integration. The GitHub Copilot seamlessly integrates with GitHub repositories, making it easy to commit, push, and pull the code changes directly from your editor. So this facilitates the collaborative coding and the version control there. So with all these key terminologies, let's go ahead. We will make sense with a quick tour on how we can develop applications or how we can use GitHub Copilot over Visual Studio Code. All right. So here we go. Let's get started with exploring about how we can use GitHub Copilot over Visual Studio Code. So initially, I would say you can go for github.com slash go for features slash copilot, and you get landed up here where you can find, about the GitHub Copilot that's said to be your AI programmer. It says that you can get the GitHub Copilot for business, and you do have like the plans that you can compare with. So you say compare plans, there are said to be a couple of things. One is said to be the Copilot for individuals, and you don't need to fly solo. You can, get Copilot for business for the entire enterprise that you have. I would still say the GitHub Copilot is free to use for if you're students or if you're like a teacher, right? And maintainers of your popular open source projects. You could still say you can try the free license that's said to be available for students. The GitHub Copilot can be managed to personal accounts with GitHub Copilot for individuals, which is said to be here, or you could simply go right. You can work through the organization's accounts as well with a Copilot for business. If you are not a student, you can try the Copilot for free, which is said to be with a 30 days free trial. And after the free trial, you will need to pay, you will need to go with a paid subscription for the continued use. So you could go here, you can check about, the billing that has been mentioned over there. And if you need more support, I would say you try making sense with the help documents that's said to be available on the same website to make sense about the billing for GitHub Copilot. Okay, so here is said to be about the GitHub Copilot, which provides an autocomplete style suggestions. I hope you could see this, right? It provides you with a autocomplete style suggestions, which is said to be from an AI paired programmer as a code. So let's say if you're using Visual Studio Code, you can view and you can incorporate the suggestions from the GitHub Copilot directly within the editor. The prerequisite for this is that you need to go for the billing. You need to make sure that you have the access for GitHub Copilot. Let's say, for example, I'll open a new tab and let's go for github.com. And if you could see this, I can go to the, Copilot. Can you find this? We have Copilot. I'll click on the same. And this is where you can find that you have an active Copilot subscription. And this can be integrated towards different IDEs like Visual Studio Code, JetBrains, Visual Studio, and with NeoWeb or Vim as well. So basically, you need to go up. See, this is said to be the Copilot that's said to be available for individual. You could also still go, you can try having it for the enterprise. Once when you have this GitHub Copilot subscription to be up, you need to select the SDK that you're going to work across. Okay, so let's say for my demo, I will go with the IDE that's said to be on Visual Studio Code, and that gives you a documentation on what you need to do. There's something called as an extension that you need to install over your Visual Studio Code. You can simply try opening up, Visual Studio Code, and there we can, I have already created a folder. I can go to the extensions and we can try installing it. But prior to this, I would like to give you another brief sketch here. You could go for feature preview. And see here we have like different features that you can find here. The color themes that are said to be available. You can enable or you can disable the theme. You can go with the command palette. Okay, so this is like you can quickly navigate, you can jump between the organizations. You can try opening the command palette and try giving up your gestures, save the commands. So you can enable or disable the options again. We do have a global navigation update. So you can it's like it's a site navigation that you find over the GitHub. You can work with having the pages to be raised with issue PR. That's your pull request, or you can go with discussions, right? You can also collaborate with your team members using the scene. We then have the Jupyter Notebook integrations all. We can get a rich UI kind of Jupyter Notebook difference, which we can enable there. And the project migration. So in case if you're planning to migrate the project from a classic board towards the new projects that we have, so that can also be done using this GitHub Copilot. And we have the development with a deployment that goes with the dashboard view. Let's say you have the development environment or you have the prod environment who wants to make sense about what's exactly happening with a repo, with a deployment, right? So that kind of UI things can be managed using this feature again. And finally, we have the new repository overview. You could go here, you get an update over the repositories landing page. You can experience the integrations from here with a new code view, followed by that the slash commands. You can just see slash and you can write your comment where it gives you the suggestions for the same. So with these things, I would say let's go for the Visual Studio Code. So I'm here with the Visual Studio Code. I have already created a folder. Let me go for the extensions and I can say I need GitHub Copilot. I repeat, I need GitHub Copilot to be installed. So here we say GitHub Copilot. Let's click on install and see it's now installed. Okay. With that, I can go for this github.com. I'll click on the github.com. We get landed up here. So you could simply like, you go, you can try the extensions and you could also find the notifications in case if there's any issues that you find here, right? You get prompted on the notifications and you try like getting it fixed. So the other way is that in your browser, right? I was showing you this. You can go to this browser and the GitHub will request, the necessary permissions for the GitHub Copilot if it's like for the first time that you're gonna work with. So you need to approve these permissions. You can click on Authorize Visual Studio Code for the very first time that you integrate. Well, okay. So with these things, let's go with the Visual Studio Code now. So I'm here with my Visual Studio Code, and we do have the page. Okay, let's try creating a new file that's said to be demo1, okay, with JavaScript. And there I can see write a program to add two numbers, for example, right? See, it gives you the suggestions. So input 10, comma 20, you give enter and you can press tab, right? You get like output 30 then. So again, I hope you're getting it now. So this adds a suggestion for you. It tells you like you can go, you can try adding up input 10, comma 20. You can try adding output as such. So the suggestions also to be enabled over here. You could still say you can try like adding the comments all. Okay. Let's say, for example, we will try removing all these things. And I can say find all images without, you know, alternate text, for example. We can then say, give them, a red border. Yes. So there we go with the code for the same. So you can describe something you want to do using the natural language within a comment, and GitHub Copilot will suggest the code to accomplish your goal there. We can still go, we can try writing, let's say, for example, I'll say express, right? Server on port, let's say 3000. So there we go with the code again. So to accept each line, you need to press the tab and then give up the enter. Let me again see, return the current time here. See, we get the code there. We can always go, we can try enable or disabling the GitHub Copilot as well. I hope you could see the icon over here where we can deactivate the Copilot. So this is all like, you can enable or disable the GitHub Copilot from the Visual Studio Code, and the GitHub Copilot status icon in the bottom panel of the Visual Studio Code window will indicate like this. So when enabled, the background color you see here, the background color of the icon will match the color of the status bar. And when we say disable, right, let's say disable globally, you could find the difference, right? So there's a change with the color. There's said to be a contrast with the color of the status bar. And I could still tell you, say let's enable globally. And when you say disable again, you can go, you can say that it has to be disabled for JavaScript alone. So you have the options. If you're disabling the GitHub Copilot, you'll be asked whether you want to disable the suggestions globally or for the language of the file that you're currently editing. We can disable the suggestions from GitHub Copilot globally by selecting the option which is set to be disabled globally. And the other side, you have disabled for language, which is set to be JavaScript or let's say with Python. Uh, so there's set to be a rich support for the Python here. And we can disable the suggestions from GitHub Copilot for the specified language over here. Well, at top of this, we can see like we can try passing multiple suggestions, okay, in a new tab. So that's again possible. Or we can even go, we can try alternative suggestions to be passed as well. We can also manage the Copilot for business using the logs. So that's something like you can try with, the edge here. I can click here and would say we can go for the organizations and we can manage the logs. So here we could find, the settings that would be available. Let's scroll down, see we have the account. You can go to the settings and you can find, the audit logs that would be available there. Apart from that, we have the Copilot where we can code, we can plan and manage the audit logs over here. Let me say here in the organization, we will select, the account, and this is set to be the settings that's default available for GitHub, and here is set to be for the Copilot that we have. And there on the Copilot, you can scroll down, you can see, you can get the GitHub Copilot for the organizations as well. So this is all set to be the basics that you need to know. And at top of this, we can also troubleshoot the common issues with the GitHub Copilot. We can enable to use the GitHub Copilot extension in the IDE, and we could still go, we can try fixing the issues, right? We have a discussion forum. So I would say you could go here for this link where there's said to be, the discussion forum that's available. You can try raising the issues, you can try getting the suggestions. So this is all like, you commonly used to get errors like GitHub Copilot could not connect to the server, extension activation failed. So this is all like the error that indicates you either you do not have a GitHub Copilot subscription, or there was an error connecting to the GitHub API to request a token to use the GitHub Copilot. To request another token from api.github.com, you can try signing in and sign out of the GitHub Copilot from your IDE. And on top of all these things, if you still could not connect to the server, you can create a discussion over here in the discussion forum, and you can include the log files from your IDE, where we can help with troubleshooting the issue there. Well, so finally, let's try exploring about, the another AI companion option, or let me say the support that we used to get from the GitHub Copilot chat. So let's go back to the Visual Studio Code, and here in the extension, you can look for GitHub Copilot chat. I hope you could see this. We have GitHub Copilot chat over the Visual Studio Code. So this provides a chat interface that lets you to ask and receive the answers to the coding related questions directly within a supported IDE. So here we have the extension, we have it already installed over the Visual Studio Code, and the Copilot chat can help you with a variety of coding, let's say the coding related tasks, like offering you with a code suggestion, providing a natural language description of a piece of code's functionality and the purpose as well. And it also generates the unit test for your code and proposes the fixes for the bugs in your code. So again, to work with this, as usual, you need to have a GitHub Copilot license. You could also go, you can try enabling the extension from here, or you go with a Visual Studio Code marketplace, and from there on, you can try fetching it. I would still say you need to enable or disable the GitHub Copilot. So you need to go to the organization and, in the settings. So let's go here. You go to, your organizations here. And for the same, you can find the settings. Okay, you could go to the settings of the organization on which you'll be working on, and you have to open up the Copilot. And thereon, you need to make sense that you have the permission given for the GitHub Copilot, chat to work across. Now, here in the Visual Studio Code, let's open up the Visual Studio Code. We have the GitHub Copilot chat. I have this installed. So let me go. If you find any kind of the notifications or fixes to be added up, you could still say you try reloading, okay, which is required to update the Visual Studio Code. And remember, we are always supposed to sign into the GitHub account on which we have the GitHub Copilot thing. Now, once after we install this GitHub Copilot chat, you could find the chat icon at the left over here. So here is set to be a new experience where you get, a chatbot within the IDE, and you can keep asking your question over here. So this chat box or the Copilot chat is intended to answer the, exclusively the coding related questions that you ask in natural language. So you can simply ask the GitHub Copilot chat to write a function that returns some addition of two numbers. Okay, so let me see, write a function that returns the sum of two numbers here. I hope you could see this. It writes a function for you, okay, with the addition of two numbers using the JavaScript, and you could still say you can add the slash on which you get the topics with the text box. You can type a coding related question over here, and then we can press enter. So let's say if I want to write some help for this, we get the help over here. Okay. Uh, we still go like we can answer the questions with the topics related to, let's say, I have the code which is set to be here. I can call the code towards the console. You go here, see, insert to a new file, or we can say run it on a terminal. We have options like this. So you say run terminal, you get opened it up here. Okay, it says like return a plus b there. So that's fine. The next that you find here is that you can choose the GitHub Copilot chat questions to write about the code, right? You can provide answers and you can support with a wide range of coding related topics over here. I can ask a question about the file which I can open up, okay, and I can simply say, what does this file do for me? Let's say, for example, I'm gonna clone a repo, okay, I can open it on the GitHub, and I can ask them like what this file can do for me, which is set to be opened up. I can still say, write a sample code to call Azure OpenAI on C Sharp. So here it says, here is a sample code, okay, where C Sharp can be called. And what I can do is I would say insert this into a new file so that we can find it over here. It makes more sense, right? So you can generate a fix as well, right? You can say fix this bug simply by adding it up over here. That brings more accelerated And we can generate a unit test as well. Let's say, for example, write again a unit test for this file. See, I'm giving intentionally, I have a combination of JavaScript and C sharp, and still I will try giving this statement to write a unit test. Let's make sense. Let's see if it could understand, if it could recognize, or what it can answer as such. So this is just to check the intelligence. I hope you could see this. We have C sharp where it tries calling it from the NuGet. So it picks the recent code which is said to be there on the terminal. So this is said to be the intent that's there on the terminal. In case if I don't have a terminal which has the code over here, it jump starts with the JavaScript and with a combination of C sharp, and there it writes still a unit test steady for the same, which is said to be the combination of both the platforms. So this is one thing. And finally, we can also try like we can fix the bug. You can just simply say fix this bug in case if you have any issues, and that can help you to get, it does not have a bug, so it provides intelligence now saying that there's nothing like a bug that we see in the code. In case if you have any kind of issues, you can keep the file to be opened up on the terminal, and you can see that fix this bug, and it can help you with the commentary over the same. Right, so that's about a quick tour to give to make sense about the GitHub Copilot, which we have been discussing. Well, so thanks for joining us, and you can explore more over the GitHub Copilot with the documentation that's available over the Microsoft Law. Thank you.